So while, of course, there are the big BRIC powers and more expansion has happened, more nations have joined into this alliance, but the focus is going to be on one bilateral meeting. In Russia, Prime Minister Modi, as has now been confirmed, will be likely holding a bilateral meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. This is no ordinary meeting. Remember, this comes after the kind of standoff, violent clashes that we had seen between the troops and during not only Galwan, but along the line of actual control. Now, there have been Corps Commander level talks. There have been a lot of meetings that have happened over the past few years. But now, the two leaders, apart from sharing a stage last night, which was a group concert hosted by Russian President Vladimir Putin, but there is going to be a bilateral meeting too. And that will be high on agenda when it comes to economic cooperation and more. But all of that comes after discussions about a phased disengagement process along the line of control, actual control, the LAC, and 4 years of deadlock possibly coming to an end. But remember, it's China. You need to trust their actions more than the words or the promises they make. After 2020 and the standoff that we had seen, we've seen how consistently the incursions either have been taking place or the provocation by China. So the first bilateral meeting between the two will be the big highlight.
I can confirm that there will be a bilateral meeting held between Prime Minister Modi and President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the BRICS summit. The exact time and other logistics are being worked out, but the meeting will take place.
Sir, namaskar. मेरा नाम गौरव सावंत है. I work for India Today and आज तक. सर, चीन के रुख में ये परिवर्तन आया कैसे आपकी दृष्टि में? और जब पेट्रोलिंग दोबारा रिज्यूम होगी तो फिर बॉर्डर पे ट्रूप्स के क्लैशेस ना हो जाए, क्या इसका भी कोई मैकेनिज्म है? और डिसएंगेजमेंट तो हो रहा है, क्या डी एस्केलेशन और डी इंडक्शन की भी बात हो रही है?
अभी जो अरेंजमेंट्स और अभी तक जो समझौता हुआ है उसे पहले हमें ग्राउंड पे इम्प्लीमेंट करना है. ये एनालिसिस की ये कैसे हुआ इसको मेरे विचार में बाद में देख सकते हैं. आपने कहा कि जो आगे फेस ऑफ्स न हो, क्लैशेस न हो, उनको कैसे रोका जाए. मेरे विचार में बहुत ही ये एक अहम आपने सवाल, एक अहम मुद्दा उठाया है. और हमारी आशा है और हमारा प्रयत्न रहेगा कि जो अरेंजमेंट्स वर्कआउट हुए हैं, जिन पे समझौता हुआ है, वो ऐसे अरेंजमेंट्स हो जिनसे इस तरह के क्लैशेस रुक सकें जो पीछे हुए हैं कहीं कहीं पे लाइन ऑफ एक्चुअल कंट्रोल के पास. तो इसमें आगे हमें देखना पड़ेगा और लगातार प्रयत्न करना पड़ेगा, लगातार कोशिश करनी पड़ेगी कि जो मैकेनिक्स हो जो अग्रीमेंट के, वो ऐसे रहें कि इस तरह के जो क्लैशेस हैं उनको रोका जा सके. जहां तक आपका अंतिम प्रश्न है कि डिसएंगेजमेंट हो गया है या हो रहा है और डी एस्केलेशन और डी इंडक्शन की बात कहाँ आती है, मैं फिर से यही कहूंगा कि अभी हमें पहले डिसएंगेजमेंट पे फोकस करना है और डी एस्केलेशन और डी इंडक्शन की बातें सही समय पे होंगी.
So that pertinent question was asked by India Today's managing editor Gaurav Sawant, and he's now joining me live as well in this telecast. Gaurav, good morning. Now, of course, the big focus will be the Modi-Xi Jinping meeting, and I'm sure it's not just about India, China watching. Possibly other world leaders will be watching this bilateral meeting too. So what do you think we can expect from this big meeting that's likely taking place after 4 to 5 years?
It's a very crucial day for India-China relations as Chinese President Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Narendra Modi hold their first bilateral interaction in 5 years. Now, an effort was made after the Doklam crisis of 2017, or Dolam as we call it, to ensure that the relationship remains on an even keel. So the Wuhan initiative and the Mamalapuram initiative was undertaken. But unfortunately, China threw it all out of the window with its transgressions in 2020. And after that, India has been very, very firm that economic relationship, strategic relationship, people-to-people relationship, all of them, India is very keen to move forward, as is China, but that can only happen when there is peace and tranquility at the borders. Now, China was very insistent, let's leave the borders to a future generation to solve because it's a legacy issue, but India was insistent that the remaining two friction points, Depsang in the north of eastern Ladakh and Demchok in the southern part of eastern Ladakh, that too has to be addressed and addressed effectively effectively for forward movement. And China has agreed to disengagement at Depsang and Demchok. So very, very crucial. A tactical disengagement has been agreed to. The strategic direction for it, perhaps on the road ahead, will come from Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the Chinese President Xi Jinping in hours from now.
And I think that statement that Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri also made about how not only patrolling but grazing activities, like you're also mentioning, will be returning along the line of actual control. What do you think will be the implication of it really on the ground and while this bilateral meeting is taking place, Gaurav?
China has been extremely keen on, one, normalization of ties, and two, increasing economic cooperation with India. However, India has repeatedly insisted that peace and tranquility at the borders is essential for the other aspects of the relationship to move forward. And a major point that was mentioned by the Foreign Secretary was that it's not just the soldiers who will go up to their patrolling points. The grazers, the shepherds, they'll be able to take their sheep and their yak, their cattle to their traditional grazing ground, as was the situation in 2020 before the standoff took place at Pengongso and Galwan. So that's a very, very major step. However, this is an agreement on paper as of now. Disengagement process, we are told, is underway, and that's a tactical level decision that's being implemented by commanders on ground. That's a military level discussion, but that higher direction will now come from the Prime Minister and the Chinese President on whether this disengagement can lead to de-escalation, and de-escalation would mean taking those longer range weapons of war to some distance away, whether it's the 155mm howitzers, the armored personal carriers, the tanks. India has both T-72 and T-90 tanks. The Chinese have their long range rockets and missiles that have been deployed. And then ultimately de-induction of the 50,000 plus troops on either side who've been there since the summer of 2020. They moving back to their peacetime location. And that's a very tough ask, because what India is also insisting on, remember, Chinese as of now have better infrastructure at the line of actual control, and India is trying to catch up. To an extent it has, but at the same time there is still that parity is still not there. So when India is talking about parity in security, it means that India should be in a position to effectively have additional number of troops closer to the border compared to the Chinese, because they can mobilize faster. And we've seen the way they de-inducted initially from the south bank of Pengong. So how quickly were they able to do so? They can equally quickly redeploy. Therefore, that parity in security has to be maintained, and that is something that India is insisting on. You may trust, but you have to verify, because with the Chinese, as we've often said, it's not what they say, because they say a lot of very sweet things. It's what they do on ground that must be seen to know their real intention.
That's true, Gaurav, because eventually about China, we have seen in the past as well that it's not words, it's what actions and what they really do. Stay on with me if possible, Gaurav.